So now we'll move along and we'll go to the review section of what we're doing tonight. And we're going to kick it off with the Melbourne band Wicked Smile. I've actually got this sent in here. We're going to be doing a giveaway for our Patreon supporters very soon involving this stuff. So for those that follow us there, you know, you'll keep an eye out for that coming up very soon. But yeah, the debut EP from Wicked Smile is Delirium. And it's 4 tracks for 15 minutes. Like I said, the debut EP from something of an Aussie supergroup. Released independently July the 1st this year, 2020. Recording on this one features Denny Sasati from Pegasus and I Fear as well on vocals, alongside Steve Janeski from the Radio Sun and Black Majesty. He's on guitar. The lineup is now expanded. I think they've got Glenn Cav, who I last saw in Virtue, on bass, and there's a few other people who are obviously filling it all out now. So thanks for sending it through to us, Stevie, and we'll get stuck into it. So what did you think of this one?
I absolutely loved it. I knew I would, because Danny and Steve, they've been, if you know the local scene and you know their body of work, they're two very, very talented people. And it's about time they teamed up together, because they're always in other bands, very good ones at that, and some that you remembered and mentioned. And, you know, I Fear was another one that was fantastic. Cyclone Tracy, I actually used to rehearse next door to those guys way back in the day when I was trying to work out what the fuck I was doing on the drums. When you look at, say, the early and mid-90s right through to now, I think they collectively got about 15 or 20 albums between themselves before they did finally this project together. And what it does for me is they've done power metal and they've done, you know, progressive stuff, and they've done really commercial stuff from Steve's perspective, Radio Sun and whatever else. But this to me is like, we're doing a bit of everything here, but mainly on the rock side. And I think this works best for Steve's guitar playing. And it's nice to hear Danny singing about real subject matter, to be honest with you, other than, you know, the traditional metal stuff, you know, the medieval times, all that kind of stuff, which he's always done very well. But I just think it's like, if you like Skid Row and, you know, if you like the bands, well, not so much older bands, but the bands that used to rule the arenas, I guess, which nowadays we don't really have. These songs will lend themselves so well to that, you know, really powerful choruses. Danny sounds still fantastic to this day. I don't know how he keeps his voice in check, but whatever he does, just keep doing it, dude, because you are probably the best singer in Australia.
Certainly up there.
It did exactly what it needed to do. It came and went like that. 15 minutes just flew by. The songs just lent into each other, rolled into each other so well and so easy. That it's just like, oh, it's done already. Fuck,
easy to repeat.
I remember getting the CD because I pre-ordered it.
Yeah, cool.
And so I've had it for a couple of months. And that night it came, I put it on. I reckon I listened to it about 8 times.
Wow,
because it was that short and I enjoyed it that much. And then I sort of noticed, you know, the didgeridoo at the start a little bit more after the second or third listen. And it was just these little pop-up things. And I loved it, man. I gave it a 10 out of 10. I'm looking forward to the new single they're going to drop in the next month or so, outside of this, which I think is a smart move. Just keep going, because there's been good momentum for this. If you like classic stadium heavy rock, this is for you, man. Like, you know, you can't fault this. Get onto it. Really good.
Yeah. Well, for all the bands we've mentioned out of this, my strongest anchor point with this group is the Radio Sun, because that's the body of work that I've most covered. I think I've reviewed almost all their albums at some point or another during the show. So coming from that reference point, this was actually, I knew it was going to be heavier than that, but I wasn't expecting how heavy it actually was in the end. Which is like, you know, the other pedigree involved here, but I just didn't know how this would come out, and it's actually pretty fucking rock and pretty heavy. It's very cool stuff. It's that heavy rock to flirting with metal kind of a thing, and it's brilliantly done, very well written, very well performed. I think also knowing that Paul Lane was involved in this, I didn't expect it to be quite as intense as it is with that sort of production point as well, but it just came together really well and was a bit of a bolt out of the blue in that regard for me, which was very, very cool. Pleasant surprise. I always bring up production, which is my personal niche, I guess. The only knock I've got on this is there's a bit of clipping from the bottom end, but again, going for this style of music, it makes sense. It's a personal bugbear, not anything else. It could be an intentional thing as well, which, you know, is meant to drive the thickness of the sound out. But aside from that, the sound is great, but the vocals in particular stand out on this release. It's got great guitar tone and all those things, but the vocals are where this one shines, and for this kind of music, it really needed that element, and they've got the right mix. I think these two working together, like you said, after all these years finally getting to it, it's the right choice. It's probably the right time too, because I've got all these chops, and now they don't have to really worry about trying to impress anyone. They've already got a body of work behind them, so it's not about anything else apart from doing what you want now, I don't think, and they've just nailed that part. I liked when this one really opened up, when they just let the sound and the stuff rip. It just fucking opened up and it just went bang. It was really cool. Performances are A1, as you expect on this. I love the writing. Like you were saying, the whole EP is short and punchy, which makes the songs short and punchy. Nothing overstays its welcome. It's all very well done. The diversity on the EP is pretty good too. No two songs are alike, which is important for something like this, and it makes the listen really quick. It just goes through, and like you did, you do want to go back to it pretty much as soon as it finishes. You'll hit the repeat button pretty comfortably. Yeah. This is one hell of an introduction to this band, and the solos were fantastic too. So, you know, and they were tasteful. They weren't overplayed. There were none of those things. They were really fitting for the songs. It was a very, very cool part of it as well. Overall, it's riff-driven and melodic with some really nice intensity. If that's your thing, like you were saying, big sort of arena, heavy rock kind of stuff, this is going to get you in a pretty good mood pretty quick. I've listened to this a fair few times now. I reckon at least a dozen times I've given this one a spin now, and I'm not tired of it yet at all. I really did enjoy this one a lot. Yeah. I think the one thing I would note about this is that there were, I don't know if you got it, something about the riffage and some of the way this sound came across. I got a bit of like a solo Ozzy Osbourne side of this for mine, just not as an influence, but just it put me in mind of it a little bit.
That guitar tone,
yeah, maybe
close to maybe not the most recent Ozzy album, yeah, but the Scream or the Scream album in particular. Yeah. Very thick, very, you know, it's 4 or 5 overdubs there, but it's a thick sound to begin with. So what it reminded me of was some of the, but it sounded more modern. But more of the Skid Row, that they've done a couple of EPs in the last, 6 or 7 years, and I had that. They went more for a rustic sound. Well, this is more of a today's sound, but it's just that big balls to the wall guitars, in a natural setting, not so much a produced or a digitalized thing. That's like Hell Yeah, it's more on the other side. So it wasn't overdone, but it's definitely not underdone, which was good, So.
I think that was really cool. You probably nailed it there. Actually, the layering, the amount of levels in the amount of guitar parts I would have put down for this. I think that's what's given it to me. Actually, that's a very good point. Yeah. I think overall this is a really good start, and the lineup now that it's fleshed out is pretty bloody impressive too. I want to see some of this live as soon as we can get back to doing that. This would be fantastic in that environment, I reckon. And this is a good little start up for this band. I hope we can get a lot more from these guys. A lot since they got the new single coming out, which is cool. But I'd like to see on the back of this another EP or an album sooner rather than later. So over the next 12 months, I would hope to see something more. It'd be very, very cool.
I think that's the plan, to be honest with you. That's why they're going to be dropping a few more songs. I think they've got a lot more songs done. It was the teaser, Yeah. But I think they'll even progress further. That was concise for a reason. And I think some of the songs will be longer and you'll get a lot more out of it. So, it'd be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, no, well, like you, I really enjoyed it. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. My standout tracks were Daze of Delirium and We Fall. They were the ones that really stood up to me, which I think is the beginning and end of it.
Yeah, I thought Stronger was good. And Love's Got a Hold on You was good. So there's the 4 of them. So.
Yeah, well, we obviously enjoyed it. Cool. So out there watching, make sure you check it out and let us know what you think while we move along to...